Imagine paying your credit card perfectly and still getting punished. Full payment, on time, zero interest, then your score drops like 25 points. It feels personal, but it's actually just one sneaky date you're not watching. Picture a normal month. You've got a card with a $5,000 limit. You spend $2,000 on furniture. Maybe you moved. Maybe your place finally stopped looking like a college apartment. You're not broke. The cash is sitting in your bank account. Your plan is simple. Wait for the bill, pay it off immediately, and move on with your life. The statement hits your inbox, you pay the full balance right away, and you pay zero interest. Responsible, clean, no drama. Then 3 days later, your phone buzzes. Your credit score changed. You open the app and it's down 25 points. Now you're standing in the kitchen thinking, what did I do wrong? And this is where people spiral. They start avoiding their card. They get nervous about any big purchase. They assume the system is rigged or that credit cards are just a trap no matter what. But most of the time, it's not that you did something wrong, it's that the system took a snapshot of you at the worst possible moment. Today, I'm going to break down how that snapshot works, why paying in full is not the same as reporting a low balance, and how shifting your payment timing by about 48 hours can be the difference between a good score and an exceptional one. Before we get into it, do me a favor. Like this video, subscribe for more money, deep dives, and comment snapshot if you've ever had your score drop for no obvious reason. We're talking about credit utilization, one of the fastest ways to move your score. Some parts of credit take years to change. Utilization can change in weeks because it resets when new data is reported. If you learn how reporting actually works, you can stop getting random score drops and start controlling what the system sees. Here's the biggest trap. We're trained to worship the due date. And for avoiding fees, the due date absolutely matters. Pay by the due date and you avoid late fees, and you avoid paying interest. But credit bureaus, Experian, TransUnion, Equifax, are not watching your accounts in real time like a live security camera. Most people assume if I pay on the 15th, then on the 16th, the bureaus know I'm clear. That feels logical. It's also wrong. Credit scoring is not a movie. It's a stack of photographs. Once a month, the system gets a picture of your balance, and that picture can make you look like you're living on the edge, even if you always pay in full. So let's make the timeline painfully clear. Imagine your billing cycle runs from the 1st to the 30th. Throughout the month, you swipe for real life. Groceries, gas, maybe a couple of subscriptions, maybe a dinner that was supposed to be just one appetizer. Your balance climbs as you spend. Then the 30th arrives. The billing cycle closes. Your bank generates your statement, that PDF bill. This date is the key, the statement closing date. The balance that appears on that statement is typically what your bank reports to the credit bureaus for that month. That number gets stamped into your credit report as the official current balance. But your due date isn't the 30th. It's usually about 25 days later, so you might have $3,000 showing on the statement on the 30th, and that $3,000 gets reported even if you pay the full $3,000 on the 20th of the next month, completely on time. That's why people feel gaslit. Your bank account shows money leaving. You feel responsible, but your credit report makes it look like you're using a huge chunk of your limit, and the psychology here matters. When people don't understand this, they start making emotional decisions. They stop using their card, even when they can afford the purchases. Or they get angry and think the whole game is pointless. Or they get stuck in that I deserve it spending loop where they treat the card like free money, then get shocked when their score wobbles. The system isn't broken, it's just slow. It's reporting a snapshot from before you cleaned up the mess. So the fix is simple, but it feels backwards at first. Don't wait for the statement to arrive and then pay it. Pay before the statement is created. People call this the statement date hack, but it's really just timing. If your statement closes on the 30th, you pay down your balance 3 or 4 days earlier around the 26th or 27th. That way, when the statement is generated, it shows a tiny balance, maybe $10, and that tiny number is what gets reported. Then when the actual due date comes weeks later, you pay the remaining $10 by the due date and you still pay zero interest. Same spending habits, same paid in full behavior. But now the photo makes you look like the low-risk person you actually are. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but does it really matter if they report $1,000 versus $10? I'm paying it anyway. Yes, it matters more than most people realize because the scoring model has thresholds. Cross the wrong line and your score can drop fast. Here's the weight of it. In the FICO score breakdown, payment history is the biggest chunk at 35%. That's fair. Did you pay your bills on time? But the second biggest chunk, 30%, is amounts owed. And for most people, that's heavily driven by utilization. That means nearly 1/3 of your score is basically the system, asking how much of your available credit are you using right now. It's weighted more than the length of your credit history, more than than your mix of accounts. So yes, you can have a perfect decade of on-time payments, but if your utilization shoots up for 1 month and gets reported at the wrong time, that 30% slice takes a hit and your score drops with it. Utilization is simple math. Balance divided by limit. Owe $500 on a $1,000 limit, that's 50%. But the scoring impact is not always smooth. The models generally dislike anything above 30%. That's the first major cliff. Above 50% can look like you're struggling, and near 100% can trigger a serious drop. And there's another twist. It's not just your total utilization across all cards, it's also per card utilization. So you could have $50,000 of total available credit, but if one card has a $500 limit and you max it out, your score can still get hit. The algorithm sees that one stressed out card and reads it as a warning sign. I've seen people with scores around 800 drop into the 740s because they put a big expense like a family trip on a low limit card. No missed payments, no new loans. Just one utilization spike captured on the statement date. And because people don't know what caused it, they panic. They assume fraud. They call the bank. They refresh their app like it owes them an apology. But usually, it's just the utilization snapshot doing what it always does. Why is the system so sensitive? Because historically, people who max out cards are more likely to default. The score reacts quickly to what looks like stress. Now the good news, in common scoring models like FICO 8, utilization is basically memoryless. A late payment can haunt you for years. Utilization doesn't work like that. Once a new balance is reported, the old reported balance mostly stops mattering. So if you were at 90% last month and your score dipped, then this month you report 5%, you can bounce back fast. That's why timing is powerful. You're updating the current snapshot, not fixing a permanent scar. So should you report 0 every month? Not necessarily. This is where credit gets weird. Reporting $0 on every card, every month, can sometimes be slightly worse than reporting a small balance. Because the scoring model is trying to evaluate how you manage credit, if your report shows you never owe anything, it can look like you're not using credit at all, like there's not much behavior to score. You don't want to look invisible. You want to look active and controlled. From what I've seen in FICO data, people at the top, those 850, score profiles often sit around 4% to 7% utilization on average, not 0%. That's why there's a strategy called all 0 except 1, often shortened to a ZO. The idea, if you have multiple cards, you pay most of them to $0 before the statement closes. But you let one card report a tiny balance like $10 or $20, or roughly 1% of that card's limit. That sends the perfect message. I use credit, but I'm not leaning on it. Now, the fear everyone has. If I leave a balance, I'll pay interest. Here's the key distinction. Reporting a balance is not the same as carrying a balance past the due date. Example, your statement closes on the 30th showing $10. That $10 gets reported, but you still have until the due date, often the 20th of the next month, to pay that $10. If you pay by the due date, you pay 0 interest. So you can get the scoring benefit of showing usage without paying extra. You're just aligning your payments with the reporting system. If you're trying to squeeze every point like you're applying for a mortgage, soon this is where you get precise. Don't aim for all zeros. Aim for all zeros except one small balance, around 1%. But if you're not applying for anything big soon, don't obsess over perfection. For most people, keeping utilization under 10% naturally is enough to stay in excellent territory. The AZO method is a fine-tuning tool for when points really matter. Now let's make this practical, because this is where people mess it up. They assume autopay will handle it. Autopay is great for protecting you from missing a due date, but it's not designed to make your statement balance small. If your autopay is set to pay the statement balance on the due date, the statement still closes with whatever balance you had at that moment, so the snapshot can still look high. If you want to control reporting, you need to temporarily take the wheel. Here's the simple 3-step routine. First, find your statement closing date for each card, not the due date. Your app will scream the due date at you. The closing date is usually inside the statement PDF. Open a past statement and look for billing cycle ends or closing date. Then put that date into your calendar as a repeating reminder. Set the reminder 2 or 3 days before the closing date to give your payment time to post. Second, on reminder day, decide what you want to report. Say your balance is $800 and you want $10 to show on the statement. You make a manual payment of $790 right then. Once it posts, your balance is around $10 when the statement closes. When the statement generates, the system sees $10. That's what gets sent to the bureaus. You just curated the snapshot. Third, after the statement cuts, pay the rest by the due date. When your statement is ready, open it and confirm it shows what you wanted. Then make sure that remaining small amount gets paid before the due date so you avoid interest. If you keep autopay on for statement balance, it should pick up that remaining amount. But check it the first few times, because missing a payment is not worth any score optimization. One more thing. You don't have to do this on every card every month forever. This is a use when needed tool. If you're applying for a loan in the next 30 to 60 days, it can be worth the effort. Otherwise, keep it simple. Spend responsibly, keep utilization low, pay on time, and let your score fluctuate a little. That's normal. Now, there's one way to take this too far, and it can get you in trouble with the bank. It's called credit cycling. Credit cycling is when you run your limit up, pay it down, then run it up again multiple times in one billing period. Example, you have a $1,000 limit. You spend $1,000, pay it off mid-month, spend another $1,000, pay it off again, then spend another $1,000. You've pushed $3,000 of spending through a $1,000 limit in one cycle. To you, it feels responsible. I'm paying it off. What's the problem? To a bank's risk department, it can look suspicious, like behavior tied to fraud. Banks set your limit based on how much exposure they want to have with you. If you're repeatedly bypassing that limit by cycling, you're forcing more volume through the account than they planned for. That can trigger a review. Sometimes they freeze the account and ask for documents. Sometimes they just close it. So yes, pay before the statement if you're optimizing. But don't repeatedly cycle your limit to artificially spend way beyond what your limit suggests. If you constantly hit your limit and you're paying early just to keep using the card, you don't need a timing trick. You need more room. Ask for a credit limit increase. If you pay in full and use the card for normal expenses, a higher limit can make utilization easy without any calendar games. With a $20,000 limit, spending $2,000 is only 10% utilization. You're naturally in the excellent zone. Now, a quick look at the future. Many lenders still rely heavily on FICO 8, which is mostly snapshot-based what gets reported right now. But newer models like FICO 10T can use trended data, meaning it may look at your balance patterns over the last 24 months. So if someone constantly runs balances up and only pays at the last second, trended models may notice that pattern. The timing strategy still helps the reported utilization, but the smarter the model, the more it can see your habits over time. That said, adoption of those newer models has been slow, and the snapshot strategy is still widely relevant for major lending decisions. One last defensive tip. Don't rush to close old cards. A lot of people try to clean up their finances by closing a card they don't use. But if you close a card with a $10,000 limit and a $0 balance, you're shrinking your total available credit. Your debt might stay the same, but your total limit drops, so your utilization ratio can jump. Keeping older cards open can help stabilize your utilization. If the card needs activity, put a small recurring charge on it, like a subscription you already pay for, and set it to autopay. Those unused limits help keep your overall utilization low. So here's the full play, simplified. Stop treating the due date like the only date that matters. Find your statement closing date, the snapshot date. Keep utilization under 30% for solid scores, under 10% for excellent scores, and if you're maximizing, aim to have about 1% report on one card while the others report $0. A few days before the statement closes, make a manual payment to bring your balance down to that tiny target. Let the statement generate. The bank reports that low number. Then pay the remaining amount by the due date so you avoid interest. It's a two-step payment routine that separates your real-life spending from what gets captured on your credit report. Money systems run on rules. Most people only learn the rules about fees and interest. But the reporting rules, the timing, the snapshot, the thresholds can be just as powerful. Once you control the snapshot, you stop getting blindsided by score drops and start managing the system on purpose. Try this for 1 month with one card. Find the closing date, pay it down a few days early, and watch what happens when the new balance reports. And if you see a jump, come back and comment how many points you gained, because it helps everyone else understand what's actually going on.